Hello, everyone. This is the Daily Fantasy 5 for Wednesday, May 22nd, and we are bringing you the 5 things you need to know every day in the world of fantasy sports, along with a draft recap for the AFC West. So that's today's show. Before we get started, let's thank our sponsor, www.mathradio.com. They bring kids ages 7 through 17 math classes for as little as $9.99. You can go there to get help with your math class, with your online exam, or even help your kids get into college. Once again, that is www.mathradio to pick up an online math course for as little as $9.99. Visit mathradio.com. All right, let's get to today's topics. We're going to start with a strange story that has to do with the MLB draft. So baseball dynasty players, listen up here. Carter Stewart, starting pitcher, 19-year-old, was picked 8th in 2018 draft by the Atlanta Braves. Well, he declined their signing bonus after they lowered it from an apparent injury. So apparently they thought he had an injury. They lowered their initial signing bonus, and he declined. So now he has signed a 6-year deal worth $7 million to play in Japan. So he'll be eligible to be a free agent in major leagues in when he's 25, 6 years from now. So that really hurts any kind of value that this prospect has going forward in any kind of dynasty league. I don't think you want to wait 6 years on a prospect. When we're drafting prospects, we're looking at guys who can be in the majors within 3 or 4 years, or even less. 6 years certainly seems like a daunting task to hold on to a dynasty keeper, no matter how good he is. So you're going to have to put, what is his name? Carter Stewart on the back burner for a while. And even when he comes into the big leagues, if he ever does, he's going to have a lot of hype since he was in Japan for so long. And I don't think you're going to be able to get any value out of him there. Let's move over to football. Yesterday, I reported that the Tampa Bay Bucks had cut, well, whatever you want to call it, cut McCoy, the defensive tackle, the face of their defense. Well, they brought in a new face of the defense in Ndamukong Suh. He is signing a 1-year deal to play for Tampa Bay this year. He will come in, be a direct replacement for McCoy. The problem with Suh in Tampa Bay is that Suh tries hard in the playoffs. Well, Tampa Bay is not going to make the playoffs. So I expect him to do little to nothing for Tampa Bay, and I expect their defense to continue to be horrible. Our third story comes out of ESPN. They had a big write-up on the San Francisco 49ers injuries, including handsome quarterback Garoppolo, Jimmy G. So they're saying he is progressing from his ACL injury last year, but he's only participating in 7-on-7 drills, not full team workouts. This has me a little bit nervous. I thought he would be 100% by now. I'm a little bit nervous that he's not. I might have to drop him out of my top 10 as far as my QB fantasy rankings go. Don't like to hear about an injury still lingering at this point in the offseason. Moving on. My hitter of the day in fantasy daily baseball is going to be an early one. The Rangers play early today. They're playing against the Seattle Mariners, and Texas Rangers starting pitcher Jesse Chavez stinks. He has a 5.25 ERA along with a 1.58 whip. It is a day game. I expect the ball to be flying, and I expect Seattle's Mallex Smith, outfielder, to do very well today. He is rated as a number 4 player as far as their multiplier goes on Roto Grinders over on FanDuel. You can pick him up. He's batting a dismal 172 this year. He does have 2 home runs and 8 stolen bases. Hopefully the guy can get on base, maybe even hit a home run. I think Malik might have a nice game here today. There is no NBA game tonight. We got crushed last night. We had we had the Bucks at -2.5. That did not work out so well. So hopefully they can come back. We're only up, 2 units now in the season? And I don't like our series bet anymore either. So anyway, we should have gone ahead and hedged against that bet a little bit when Toronto was like plus 900. That would have been a smart move, but it didn't happen. So let's move to the big event today, the NFL draft recap of the AFC West. So I'm going to start with my least favorite team out of the AFC West, which is the Kansas City Chiefs. They finished at 12. Let me rephrase. I don't dislike the Chiefs. I dislike their draft. They're not my least favorite team in this division. Anyway, the Chiefs were 12-4 last year. They were number 1 in DVOA and number 26 on defense. So you would think they need some defensive help, right? Well, they have no first-round pick. In the second round, they picked McCole Hardman, a wide receiver out of Georgia. So not exactly any help on the defensive line. They needed to pick a wide receiver, though, they felt like, because they needed a Hill replacement. They actually had to trade up and give up a fifth-round pick to do it. So my problem here philosophically is they don't know the fate of Tyreek Hill. He could be there, he could not be there. But they know for a fact that their defense is going to be horrible. So I guess philosophically, do you try to make the strength that carried you to the AFC Conference Championship game last year, continue to make that a strength by adding a wide receiver who you hope can replace Tyreek Hill, or do you try to improve the worst part of your team? I would think that you would try to improve the worst part of your team because Mahomes should be able to carry whatever offense they have in Kansas City with or without Tyreek Hill. But this defense is going to be maybe the worst in the National Football League, and they didn't do anything in the first, or I'm sorry, with their first pick to help that. They did have another second round pick. They took Juwan Thornhill, a safety cornerback out of Virginia. He should start for them day one. I don't think he's a special player, but with their lack of secondary help, he should be a starter in day one. So that's a pretty decent pick. In the third round, they took a defensive tackle, Kalen Sanders out of Western Illinois. Little known secret is that the Kansas City Chiefs were the absolute worst against the run, according to DVOA last year. So Kalen Sanders should help against the run. And then they didn't have a fourth round pick. They didn't have a fifth round pick. In the sixth round, they took a cornerback and a running back. And in the seventh round, they took a center. So this draft just seems incomplete to me. They didn't have much value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks in all. I think they needed a lot of help on defense. They really needed to throw some darts to help out that defense, and they really just didn't do it. They took one safety, one defensive tackle, and one cornerback. Not going to get it done, my friends. So that's why Kansas City comes in fourth in my rankings. Number 3, according to the draft, I have the Oakland Raiders. It was easy to kind of get excited about the Raiders as they had 3 first-round picks in this draft. I like a lot of the players they got, as you'll see, but it seems like I can't just reward them for having more first-round picks than everybody else. It just doesn't seem right. So I hated with what they did at the first pick. They had number 4 overall. They went with Clelin Ferrell, defensive end out of Clemson. So here is my problem. I think most draft sites that you look at will have him as a late first-round pick. I think there were 1, 2, 3, 4 players who rushed the passer after their fourth-round pick they could have got if they would have traded back or just simply selected him at number 24. I'm talking about, let me rephrase, at that number 4 pick, if they would have stayed there, they could have got Josh Allen, better player, Ed Oliver, better pass rusher, Rasheem Gary, maybe, maybe not, or Brian Burns. Any of those guys, I think, are better pass rushers. I think Clelin Ferrell comes in at pass rusher number 6 behind Bosa Williams, Allen, Oliver, and Burns. I would have rather had any of those guys. Obviously, they didn't have a chance at Bosa or Williams. They could have traded up, I suppose, but I would have much rather seen them traded down at number 4 or just picked one of the other guys. I mean, who was it? The Steelers traded all the way up from number 20 to number 10. Why not give them the number 4 pick? I think you still could have landed Clelin Ferrell at number 20 if you had wanted to. You would have picked up an extra second-round pick, a third-round pick, whatever else they got in that deal, and maybe a little bit more if the Steelers wanted to go all the way to number 4. But I'm sure you could have traded back somewhere in the teens with that number 4 pick and picked up some extra value later on. I mean, this team has all kinds of holes to fill. They need to be picking best player available all day long, and I don't think they did that at number 4. At picks number 24 and number 27, I think they did a much better job. Josh Jacobs, running back out of Alabama. I think he's the number 1 running back on the board. And then at pick number 27, Jonathan Abrams, safety out of Mississippi State. Seems like consensus number 1 safety. So I don't mind them getting the best running back and the best safety in this draft. That's not bad. I have no complaints there. Second round, they took Trayvon Mullen, cornerback out of Clemson. I don't mind that either. They had no third-round picks. In the fourth round, they had 3 players. They took Max Crosby, out of defensive end out of Eastern Michigan, Isaiah Johnson, quarterback out of Houston, and Foster Monroe, a tight end out of LSU. None of those guys seemed like a great value to me. I mean, maybe they were at value or slightly below value. I don't know, nothing to get excited about. In the 5th round, they took a wide receiver, 7th round defensive end. So they came in third. I think they brought in some good talent. I really do. However, I just don't like what they did at the top of the draft at number 4. I think they lost a lot of value with that pick. And then they could have traded down, added some people in the 3rd round. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th round is really where the value was in this draft. And they ended up with only 1 second-round pick and no third-round picks. So I feel like they put their resources in the wrong area of this draft, which is why I moved the Oakland Raiders, soon to be Las Vegas Raiders, down to number 3. Number 2 in the NFL draft for the AFC West, I have the Denver Broncos. Even though they only drafted, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players in this draft. I think they did a great job. They are the ones who actually traded down with the Steelers to pick up some extra picks, and they went from number 10 to number 20. They finished grabbing Noah Fant, tight end out of Iowa. Let me first review. I forgot to tell you that the Raiders were 4-12 last year. Offense 25, defense 30 in DVOA. The Broncos had a very similar record at 6-10. However, their DVOA stats are way different. They were 14th on offense and 5th on defense. So I think this is a team that is looking to bounce back after a surprisingly bad year last year. So again, they trade back from 10 to 20, pick up some extra capital and some future capital, along with Noah Fant, tight end out of Iowa. He's one of the best tight ends in this class, should be a great weapon for Joe Flacco. Flacco loves to use his tight ends, and Fant should be a great weapon down the field for him. The second round pick, they took Dalton Reisner, offensive tackle out of Kansas State. This is a nice pick because he brings versatility. He could play center, guard. He could bounce the tackle if there's an injury, but he should start right away for the Denver Broncos. So I like what they did at their picks, first round and their second round picks. I think they brought a lot of value in on the offensive side of the football. Staying with offense, they traded up to get Drew Lock, quarterback out of Missouri. So you've got Joe Flacco locked up for, I think, 2 more years. Actually, I think he's only guaranteed for this year, and then next year you could cut him or pay him $20 million. I believe that's correct. So you let Drew Lock sit behind Flacco, see how he progresses, and then next year, if you say, you know what, Drew Lock is our guy, let's go ahead and go with him. Or if this year becomes a disaster, you can throw Drew Lock in there and see what you've got. So I think this, second round pick is a nice value for Drew Lock. Some place had him projected going in the mid-first round. So I think to get him in the second round is a nice value for the Denver Broncos. I like the pick. I almost said the Ravens because they got Joe Flacco on this team. Sorry about that. In the third round, they took defensive tackle / defensive end, DeMarte Iams out of Ohio State. He is kind of a big defensive end, fits better in a 3-4 system. He should help out a lot against the run and maybe add some pass rush as well. So I don't mind that pick either. 5th round, outside linebacker, 6th round wide receiver. Not a bad draft. I like their philosophy. They went offensive heavy early, then added some defense later on. And I think they improved their offense enough that they could theoretically be a playoff team this year if they can figure out the quarterback position between Flacco and Drew Lock. And if not, you rebuild for next year. No harm, no foul. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention, I don't normally write this down, but the reason the Broncos were so low on DVOA, I think they were overall number 13, is that their special teams were 31st. Hopefully some of these players can help out with special teams as well. All right, moving on to number 1 in this draft in the AFC West were the Los Angeles Chargers. Almost said San Diego there. They were 12-4 last year. Offensive DVOA, they were 3rd, and defense, they were 8th. So they had a really, really nice year. Their biggest need coming into this draft was a defensive tackle, help out against the run, get some pressure up front, and they did that right away. In the first round, they took Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. He is excellent against the run, and he's a decent pass rusher. I think he should start for day 1 from this team and really solidify their defensive line. Great pick there at number 1. In the second round, they took Nasir Adderley, another player out of Delaware. He's a safety cornerback combo he has all the ball skills. I think this is an electrifying secondary. You've got Derwin James, Casey Haywood, and now you add in Nasir Adderley. I think that is an explosive secondary that can create all kinds of big plays and get the ball back into Phillip Rivers' hands. The pick that I found questionable that almost knocked the Chargers out of the first round or out of the number 1 slot was Trey Pipkins, offensive tackle out of Sioux Falls. He's a Division II player. Big question marks here. I saw that basically no one had him rated to be drafted in any of the first 7 rounds. So everyone had him as an undrafted offensive tackle. I mean, obviously the Chargers see something in this guy that no one else does, really. But I just don't see why you have to take him in the 3rd round. Maybe just go ahead and trade down a bit, pick up some extra capital, maybe another third round pick, maybe an extra fourth round pick, whatever. You could have grabbed this guy in the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, right? It seems that way. I don't see any reason why not. So that was my big negative on this draft. Maybe the guy ends up being awesome, but it just doesn't seem like the best use of draft capital. The fourth round, they took a linebacker, Dre Twinkle, out of Notre Dame, another Notre Dame player. So you got a linebacker and a defensive tackle. He seems to be very fast. He seems very strong. Maybe needs a little bit more development to stay off blocks, but he seems like he could be a really good player going forward for the Chargers. So more defensive help there. Then you add quarterback Easton Stick. I don't know who he is. He's out of North Dakota State. I don't know. He's 6'1". I looked that up. They said he has a above average arm, but not a cannon. I don't know. Back up for Phillip Rivers. Throw a dart at a wall. I don't really mind this for San Diego. Let me get this straight. I don't mind them drafting a quarterback in the 5th, 6th round every single year until Phillip Rivers retires. Keep throwing darts at the dartboard until you find your next quarterback. And in the 5th, 6th rounds, I don't mind that at all. Now, if San Diego would have been the team to take, Drew Lock in the 2nd round, I would not have liked that because San Diego is contending for a Super Bowl right now. Go ahead and take your shot in the 5th, 6th round. I like that for San Diego. I'm sorry, Los Angeles Chargers. Let's see, what else did they get? In the 6th round, they got an outside linebacker and a defensive tackle. So more defense. The only thing that I really complain about goes back to that 3rd round pick with Trey Pipkins. More offensive line help. Even if Pipkins is your guy, just trade down a little bit, get an extra 3rd round, 4th round pick, take another offensive lineman, and add more guys to that problem. See if you can get that offensive line fixed. That is really my only complaint with the Los Angeles Chargers draft, and that's why they came in at number 1. All right, that's it for the AFC West draft recap. I hope you enjoyed the show today. As always, please check out our sponsor over at www.mathradio.com to pick up an online math course for as little as $9.99. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the show, share it with a friend. We would greatly appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening on to a podcast, either Spotify or iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating, and we would love a nice review. Okay, we will be back tomorrow with another Fantasy 5 for you. That's it for today. See you later, folks. Bye.